the ability to have somebody who is kind of epitomizes what you think your country stands for has always been a major ambition.
Princess Anne and King Charles, two of the most well-known members of the royal family, may no longer be able to hide what they've kept hidden for so long. They have stayed strong and followed the rules for years, but it looks like the truth is becoming too much to bear. What have they been hiding? And why is it now being opened? This secret might change all we know. Join us in this video as we explain the details. Princess Anne and King Charles can no longer keep this hidden. Princess Anne and Queen Camilla have had a relationship that's always looked casual on the outside, but on the inside it hasn't really been warm or close. The two women have both been very important parts of the royal family for a long time, but they've never really bonded in a deep or personal way. People who watch the royal family closely have often noticed that while they stand near each other at events and sometimes smile or speak briefly, there's a kind of distance between them. It's not something loud or obvious, but it's there, and it's been there for a long time. This distant feeling between them didn't just happen out of nowhere. It goes back a long time and is connected to things that happened many years ago. Before Camilla became part of the royal family, and before she married King Charles, she had a relationship with a man named Andrew Parker Bowles. Now, this is where things start to get a little complicated, because Andrew was not just someone Camilla cared about. He was also someone who had been very close to Princess Anne. Anne and Andrew had once shared a very real and strong bond. They liked each other a lot, and for a while, it even looked like they might have a future together. But there was a big problem. Andrew was Catholic, and Anne, as a member of the Church of England, was not allowed to marry someone of that faith back then. Because of this rule, they couldn't get married. Still, they stayed close for a long time. Anne respected Andrew so much that she later chose him to be the godfather of her daughter, Zara. Even though Anne and Andrew didn't get married, they clearly still cared about each other. That deep, lifelong connection might not have been easy for Camilla when she was married to Andrew. Being married to someone who still had a strong bond with another woman, especially one as high-profile and admired as Princess Anne, couldn't have been simple or easy. Camilla was always composed in public and never showed any signs of being upset about it, but people who watched closely believed they could feel some quiet tension. During one of the times Camilla and Andrew were not together, Camilla met Charles, who is Anne's brother. That's when things really began to change. Charles liked Camilla right away. He thought she had a calm and confident way about her, but even though he felt that way, their relationship didn't move forward very smoothly. There were people who didn't think Camilla was the right kind of woman to be with a future king. She was older than Charles and had been in other relationships before, which didn't sit well with the royal family. Then Charles had to go away for military service with the Royal Navy. When he came back, he found out that Camilla had gone back to Andrew and that they had gotten married. That was a turning point. Charles was heartbroken. Anne, meanwhile, saw the man she had once loved marry someone else. It created a very complicated situation with a lot of deep emotions and personal history, and it didn't just go away. As time went on, Anne got married to Mark Phillips and focused seriously on her royal duties. But her close connection with Andrew stayed. That closeness may have always been a quiet issue between Anne and Camilla. Later, Camilla divorced Andrew and eventually married Prince Charles, Anne's brother. So now Camilla had been married to both Anne's former love and Anne's brother, making the whole thing even more tangled and difficult. Anne has always been someone who believes strongly in tradition. She takes royal duties very seriously and expects others to do the same. She doesn't like when people break the rules or enter the royal family in unusual ways. Because of this, it was hard for her to fully accept Camilla. To Anne, Camilla was part of the reason Charles and Diana's marriage ended. Diana was deeply loved by the public, and her memory stayed strong. Camilla represented change that didn't always feel good or right to Anne. Princess Anne and King Charles kept the tension between Anne and Camilla quiet for years to protect the family's image. But as Camilla's role grew and the pressure inside the palace built, they could no longer hide the strain. The silence finally cracked. But as the years went by and Camilla took on a larger role within the royal family, one question remained. Could she ever truly earn Princess Anne's respect? Let's take a look. The struggle for respect and acceptance. Over the years, Anne and Camilla attended many events together. They stood side by side and smiled when they were supposed to, but they didn't talk much or seem relaxed around each other. There was always a space between them that never really went away. Their story didn't include major fights or shouting. It was more about opportunities they missed, past feelings that they never made peace with, and the job of royal life. Anne is known for her strength, seriousness, and deep attention. She does not give out praise easily, and she does not act to like people she doesn't like just to be polite. If she respects someone, it's because they deserve it. So, when Camilla joined the royal family, Anne did not greet her with wide arms. She kept a close eye on her and showed her only the most basic courtesy. Camilla, on her part, was aware that her road would not be simple. She understood that many people inside and outside the royal family had strong opinions about her. Still, she got to work. She started doing more royal duties, helping charities and supporting Charles at events. Slowly, she began to show that she wasn't just there for the title. She was trying to do the work. Eventually, Anne noticed this. She saw that Camilla was showing up and working hard. The resistance that Anne had always shown began to fade a little. But even though things got a bit better, they never got warm. There was still a coldness between them. Their conversation stayed short, and their smiles didn't reach their eyes. Part of what kept them apart was how different they were. Anne had grown up inside the royal world and had followed the rules her whole life. She didn't ask for attention or praise. She just did her job, again and again, without needing to be noticed. Camilla's life had been different. She hadn't grown up in that strict world, and she had to learn everything as she went. She used public appearances and media to help improve her image. Anne thought duty should be quiet and private. Camilla thought it sometimes had to be public so people could see and understand. That difference didn't make them enemies, but it kept them from becoming close. They each found their place in the royal family. They didn't fight, but they didn't bond either. Even when Camilla's role got bigger and she started to take on more duties, Anne still had her doubts. Anne believed that the crown came first, no matter what, and she wasn't sure Camilla really understood that. When Charles became king and Camilla officially became queen consort, the family had a private meeting to talk about it. Anne made sure to speak her mind. She didn't yell or attack Camilla, but she said what she believed clearly. She felt the queen consort needed to be someone the public could trust completely. Someone who had shown total dedication over many years. Anne wasn't convinced that Camilla had done that. Camilla sat and listened. She didn't argue, but Anne's words hit hard. They came from within the family, not from the media or the public. That made the pain worse. Camilla had spent so long striving to be accepted, and it felt as if all of her efforts were being questioned. Anne was not being unkind. she was being honest. Her life has been one of hard work, service, and prioritizing the royal family before herself. She believed Camilla had not met the same level. King Charles attempted to keep matters calm and balanced, but Anne refused to back down. Her loyalty to the crown was too strong. But even as Princess Anne's doubts lingered, another presence was quietly reshaping the royal spotlight. How would Camilla cope with the rise of Catherine, the Princess of Wales? Stay tuned for more. A quiet rivalry in the public eye. At the same time, another woman was rising in public favor. Catherine, the Princess of Wales. Catherine quickly became a favorite. People loved how real and kind she seemed. She wasn't born into royalty, but she carried herself with grace. The media praised her, and she reminded many people of Princess Diana. As Catherine's popularity grew, Camilla once again found herself in someone else's shadow. No matter how much work Camilla did, people seemed more interested in Catherine. Even within the family, Catherine had close relationships. The Queen respected her, and Prince Harry admired her. Camilla may have started to feel left out and overlooked again. Even though Camilla and Catherine looked friendly in public, there were whispers. Some people said Camilla looked down on Catherine's background. Growing up in a middle-class family, Catherine's parents had worked hard to build a business. She had a normal life before she met Prince William, which people found admirable, because it made her seem more relatable. When Catherine married William in 2011, the nation celebrated, and she became a symbol of modern royalty because she volunteered, helped others, and always seemed genuine. While Camilla's public image continued to improve, she continued to struggle with her past. Camilla did her best to keep up, continuing to support her husband, volunteer, and participate in charitable endeavors. But people didn't always notice. Old stories about her past still followed her. Meanwhile, Catherine kept gaining love and support. Inside the royal family, Catherine's influence grew. Her voice mattered. People saw her as someone who could lead the monarchy into a new time. Camilla, though queen consort, had to keep working to hold on to her place. This quiet, hidden competition between the two women didn't show up in their words, but people could feel it. They stood side by side and smiled, but there was more going on beneath the surface. Catherine used her kindness and modern style to build a strong connection with the public. Camilla leaned on her title and experience. Both women carried out their duties. Both women worked hard, but the difference in how people saw them made everything more complicated. Camilla had worked for years to earn a place in the royal family. Catherine seemed to win hearts almost overnight. That contrast shaped everything. It affected how people treated them, how much influence they had, and how their roles were seen. Even though they kept things calm in public, their paths remained very different. And that quiet tension, though never spoken, was always there. With tension still simmering between Princess Anne and Queen Camilla, what did Anne do next that quietly spoke volumes about her priorities and sense of duty? Keep watching to find out. Princess Anne's meaningful visit to Gernzi. Princess Anne, who is known formally as the Princess Royal, and who is the only daughter of the late Queen Elizabeth II, made a very meaningful and special journey recently. She traveled all the way to the island of Gernzi, which is one of the Channel Islands, and the reason for this visit was something incredibly important. She went there to take part in events and ceremonies that were organized to remember and mark the 80th anniversary. Yes, 80 whole years since the island of Gernzi was finally freed from German control. That time of freedom, which we now call Liberation Day, happened after a long, dark, and very difficult period during the Second World War, when the island had been under the occupation of German forces. That period was hard for everyone who lived there, and this visit was a chance to remember everything they went through and celebrate how far they've come. While she was on the island, Princess Anne did something that many people found touching. She didn't just show up for ceremonies and official events, she actually spent time with the people who lived there, especially those who were alive during the time of the German occupation. These islanders are now elderly, but their memories of that difficult time are still very strong. The princess listened carefully to what they had to say. They shared their personal stories with her, stories about how it felt to live under occupation, how scary it was, and how good it felt when the island was finally freed. They also talked about Liberation Day itself, which took place 80 years ago, and how much it meant to them and their families. At one very important and solemn event held on Friday morning, which was a church service, Princess Anne gave a small speech. She stood in front of the people gathered there and shared a kind and heartfelt message. She said, and these were her exact words, "It brings me great joy to be able to come back to Gernzi once again, and I truly thank you for asking me to be here with you. It is a very special day as you celebrate Liberation Day, and it is also a day to think about and honor the people who lived through the hard times of occupation or were taken away from their homes." This message meant a lot to the people who were there. It served as a message to them that even though many years have passed, those hard times are not forgotten. It showed that Princess Anne understood the importance of remembering things, and that she was there to back them up as they look back on their past. How did Princess Anne continue to honor the legacy of wartime courage throughout her journey to the Channel Islands? Let's find out. A princess on a mission of deep remembrance. However, she continued to travel after her visit to Gernzi. Princess Anne was actually supposed to travel to another island named Sark the very next day, on Saturday. Despite being a smaller island, Sark is a member of the Channel Islands and, like Gernzi, was impacted by the war's events. The princess planned to take part in similar Liberation Day celebrations there as well. It was all part of her commitment to honoring the people who lived through the occupation and showing that their stories and experiences still matter. During her time speaking to the public, Princess Anne also shared a message from her brother, King Charles. The king had asked her to personally give his greetings, she told the crowd. She also said that King Charles wanted to give his warmest greetings to the islanders, showing his thoughts for them and his shared memories of this important day. But that wasn't all. The princess went on to share more from the king. He had also asked her to pass along some personal memories. He recalled how kind and welcoming the people of Gernzi and Sark had been during a visit he made with Queen Camila just the year before. He said he remembered with great fondness the incredibly kind and generous welcome they had received. That visit had clearly left a strong impression on both him and Queen Camila, and he wanted to make sure the people knew how much it meant. How did the personal stories shared by the people of the islands, like a child's first taste of chocolate during wartime or a poem written from a soldier's letter, turn an official royal visit into a serious, emotional, and unforgettable experience for everyone that was part of it? To learn more, keep watching. Heartfelt Stories from the Islands. One of the people who met Princess Anne during this trip was an 85-year-old woman named Winnie Kehoe. Winnie was just 6 years old when the war came to an end, but even though she was very young, she still remembers what it was like. She specifically told the princess about an experience that, while seemingly insignificant to others, held great significance for her: the first time she ever laid eyes on chocolate. Food was quite difficult to find during the war, Winnie explained. The island was cut off, and supplies were low. People were hungry, and there were many days when they didn't know if they would have enough to eat. She said, We were truly suffering from hunger. It was a really difficult time. We didn't have enough to eat at all. So when those Canadian food parcels arrived, we were so happy and relieved. She continued by saying, "We had never tasted chocolate before in our lives. And when we opened those parcels and saw chocolate inside, it was such a lovely surprise. It meant so much to us back then." That memory stayed with her all these years, and she was happy to share it with Princess Anne. But she also shared another story that was a little sad. She remembered how she once cried herself to sleep. That happened after her father got upset with her for accepting chewing gum from a German soldier. Even as a small child, she could feel the tension and the seriousness of the time. Another person who had a very emotional experience during the princess's visit was Sally Robert. Sally, who is 64 years old, wrote a unique poem that was inspired by an actual letter. Her father-in-law had written that letter with his mother in mind during the war. Using the words and feelings from that letter, Sally composed the poem, which was selected to be read in front of Princess Anne. Sally said, "It feels absolutely amazing to be part of this. I saw an announcement where they were asking people if they had any special items or memories from the occupation time. I had already written a poem about my late father." She added, "To my great surprise, they contacted me and told me that the poem would be read to the princess. That really meant a lot to me. It felt like a great honor." She also shared her thoughts about the importance of remembering. She said, "I truly believe that we must always keep remembering. We should never forget. All of these stories we've heard over the years are so important, and they need to be passed down and remembered." One more person who had something to say about the visit was Jeff Nicholson. Jeff is 83 years old, and he lives very close to a place called the Miras Battery, which was one of the stops Princess Anne made during her trip. He said that her visit came as a complete surprise. No one had told them very far in advance. Jeff said, "It really caught us off guard. We only got word about it around 30 minutes before she actually showed up. It didn't give us much time to get ready. So I guess you could say we weren't exactly prepared for it." These moments, from the church service to the chocolate stories to the surprise visit, show just how much emotion and history was wrapped into this one visit. It wasn't just about remembering the past, it was also about expressing gratitude, sharing memories, and honoring those who went through something very difficult. Jeff was obviously happy to see the princess and be a part of the day's events, despite the surprise. It was another reminder of how important it is for the royal family to connect with the people and be present for moments that matter. For Princess Anne, and for all the people she met, it was a deeply meaningful experience, and one that will surely be remembered for many more years to come. As tensions rise within the royal family, Anne's quiet influence and Kate's increasing visibility have begun to unsettle Camilla. With a certain visit on the horizon, how will these shifting dynamics threaten her position? Keep watching to find out. A quiet visit with powerful meaning. Prince William and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, made a quiet but very meaningful visit to Guildhall in London. They were there to take part in a very important ceremony. It was the United Kingdom's official event for Holocaust Memorial Day. Every year, this day is set aside to commemorate a very traumatic and depressing event. It is intended to remember and pay tribute to the millions of people who perished during the Holocaust. Additionally, it provides an opportunity to honor those who somehow survived it. Survivors, people who lost everything but still carried on. People who still had stories to tell. People whose voices still matter. Now, this visit was something that touched many people deeply. It wasn't just a public appearance or something to check off on a calendar. It was much more than that. And something about it felt personal, especially for Catherine. She didn't just show up. Her presence was not expected until the very last minute. Many reporters who were there didn't even know if she was going to attend. Her attendance had not been confirmed ahead of time, and so when she did arrive, there was a soft stir in the room. Cameras were lifted, heads turned. Eyes followed her every step. But what followed wasn't just about photographs or headlines. It has to do with something more profound and personal. You see, this incident was connected to Catherine, not merely due to her regal status, not only because she is well known, but because she had spent time with two extremely unique people in 2020, a few years prior. She didn't just meet them once and move on. She had sat with them. She had listened to them. And then she took their photographs. Not for fun, not for fame, but as a way to remember them, as a way to share their faces, their strength, and their stories with others. The pictures were made to mark the 75th year since Auschwitz, one of the most terrible camps, had been freed. Now, on this day at Guildhall, Catherine saw them again. And when she did, something shifted in the air. It wasn't just a polite meeting. It wasn't a brief hello. It was something far more gentle, far more emotional. She greeted them with warmth in her eyes. You could see she remembered them. You could see she cared. Her body language was soft. Her smile was kind. Her words, though not all heard, seemed to come from a place of deep respect. Could Anne's subtle influence and Kate's rising prominence be the tipping point for Camilla? As royal relationships grow more complex, whispers about their roles and intentions intensify. How will this evolving power struggle shape the future? To learn more, keep watching. Memory, respect, and quiet strength. The room where the ceremony took place was quiet and serious. But it was also filled with feelings. You could feel the emotion in the air. People were there not just to look back at history, but to think about what it means today. There were candles, there were speeches, there were tears. People spoke about those who were lost. People spoke about those who still remember. Catherine stood among them, not as someone above the pain, but as someone who was part of the moment. She stood as someone who wanted to be there, someone who truly understood why the day mattered. And then there were the photos, the same ones she had taken in 2020. These pictures were displayed again. They showed the survivors with all their grace and quiet power. These weren't just any photographs. They were full of feelings, full of truth. They captured not just faces, but memories, pain, courage, history. And Catherine had taken them with her own hands, through her own lens, with her heart fully in it. During the ceremony, Catherine stood quietly at times. She listened. She watched. Her eyes often fixed on the survivors as they spoke or moved. She didn't interrupt. She didn't try to be the center of attention. Instead, she gave her presence. She gave her respect. She showed what it means to truly care. Prince William, too, was there. He stood beside his wife. Together, they showed support, not just as royals, but as people. As human beings who understand that some things in life are too important to forget. They heard the names of the lost. They saw the faces of those who survived. And they remembered. The images were soft, full of light, and full of meaning. In them, you could see the kind of connection that doesn't happen by chance. It's a connection that comes from listening, from caring, from returning, from remembering. This visit wasn't loud. It wasn't flashy. But that's exactly why it mattered so much. Yes, it was quiet. but it was full of something strong, a feeling of obligation, a feeling of respect, a reminiscence. Catherine didn't have anything to say. Her presence was sufficient. "I remember you," it said. "You are not forgotten," it said. And this peaceful visit stood out in today's society, where things frequently happen so quickly, news is constantly changing, and people forget things easily. It reminded everyone that there are still people who care, that there are still moments where history is not just talked about, but felt, lived, held gently in the heart. Catherine's presence that day showed once again that she's not just a princess by title. She's someone who understands the power of showing up, the power of looking someone in the eye and saying, without even using words, "You matter." And that is something truly beautiful. If King Charles were to pass away, the already tense and awkward relationships within the royal family could become even more difficult for Camilla. She may feel alone if the king weren't there to validate and support her role. She would be torn between growing public admiration for Kate, Princess Anne's quiet power, and unresolved animosity from people who never truly accepted her. Rapid changes in the balance of power could cause Camilla to experience the very real dread of being marginalized, both in the family and in public. How do you feel about Princess Anne and Queen Camilla's awkward situation? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for watching this video. We hope you found it interesting. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video shown on your screen to catch up on your favorite celebrity stories. See you there.